Hello and welcome to the Chronicle Postgame Show alongside Samir Pandhare. My name is Derryck Thornton. We're here in Chapel Hill. In case you didn't get the news, the Blue Devils win by 1 point in an unbelievable finish. The Blue Devils trailing really for much of this game, especially the first half. They were up by 2 points barely, but they lose Matt Jones. They're basically playing with 5 players plus Chase Jeter. They're down by 8 points, 68-60 in the second half. You bring Luke Kennard back in, and somehow they pull out their 4th straight victory against the Tar Heels. How did they get it done down the stretch?
It was just another gritty performance from the Blue Devils, and it came from all the 5 players that were on the floor. Grayson Allen, Brennan Ingram led the way. Huge performances, both taking it strong to the basket on almost every possession, not settling for threes, but taking to the hoop, forcing other defenders to come up on them and getting fouled or finding other teammates. When they did find other teammates, they found Kennard for a big 3 that gave the Blue Devils their first lead in the second half, and they were able to find Thornton a couple times for a couple big buckets. Marshall Plumlee, can't understate how big of a game he had. He had 4 fouls, picked up his 4th with around 9 minutes to go in the game, and he actually had to come back in, play with those 4 fouls, and did a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
Didn't foul out and contested Brice Johnson down low. Johnson had his way in the first half, though, and he had one of the biggest games maybe in his career, and one of the biggest games by one of the North Carolina players in the history of this rivalry.
He got a double-double in the first half alone. I believe it was 18 points. I don't remember how many, 10 rebounds. I mean, he really put on a clinic, and even midway through the second half, he was having his way. And then it was so ironic because you have Marshall Plumlee with 4 fouls, and you would think, well, he's going to play less aggressively on defense. And, you know, whether he did or did not, the result was Brice Johnson really just didn't execute or didn't even get the ball down the stretch. And I think it's safe to say the Tar Heels had many shots close to the rim throughout the game. I mean, you and I were talking about how it really seemed like, how is Duke in this game? How are they winning? And really, UNC did not shoot well besides Brice Johnson. They didn't convert. So I think you have to consider that as Brice Johnson fading away toward the end of the game. And, you know, Samir, obviously you have this huge win. What does it mean to this team going forward?
Yeah, before we look going forward, let's go through the last play of the game. Actually, after the Blue Devils had taken a 1-point lead, Joel Berry, North Carolina's point guard, had a chance to win it, and he drove, and Derryck Thornton actually happened to be right there for the block. It was one of the biggest plays of the game, and actually came on the defensive end for the Blue Devils, and that was big for the team, considering they've struggled on the defensive end at times this year. Another big play on defense, and it really shows throughout this stretch the Blue Devils have put together some of their best defensive performances, and that's been big for the team. And going forward, I mean, they have another tough game against Louisville coming up, but this team has shown heart, and that's really carried them, because they only had 5 players. Matt Jones, you talked about the injury. He was out. He was on crutches after the game. Other players seem to think he'd be fine, but who knows how long he'd be out. Just shows, even though they're shorthanded, though, the play of Allen and Ingram, both of them finding other players and making their teammates better, continues to be big. And it was just an impressive performance by the Blue Devils, especially after they struggled so much early in the year against lanky and long teams. North Carolina had that in Johnson. They had that in Justin Jackson, and neither one of them could stop, really, Ingram and Allen when they got the ball rolling. Yeah. And it was a big win for Duke.
Yeah, and you talk about, you know, these close wins. They had so many close losses before, another close win. And they say you needed 8 people last year. I mean, right now it's only 5 with this team. Yeah. They did an unbelievable job. And as you said, they'll be playing Louisville. You know, they've won 4 straight games both against North Carolina, and overall they have a ton of momentum. They beat Louisville just last week, so we'll see how they do. But until then, Duke is going to soak up this huge 1-point win against North Carolina, who they'll take on later this year. And that about does it for coverage. Alongside Samir Pandhare, my name is Jack Dolgin. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.